What's up? What's up? What's up? Okay. I'm doing a live stream today. I wasn't planning to do one, but I'm coming down with like a cold or something. Last week was really, really busy. We had I had a photo shoot. Let's see. I had a photo shoot on Wednesday. That was about 6 hours long. And then Friday, I had a video shoot where we did some commercials or whatever, ads for my new product line. You can see I kind of like I did some fake tan. So the product line, the website, AMG Labs with a Z, that'll be up eventually. It's still not all the way up yet. All the supplements, there's 2 out right now. There'll be an additional 4. The 2 are on sale for my website now. So the GDA and the pump product, Wicked Pumps, are on my website right now to be bought. So they're already selling like crazy. The pump product's awesome. People love it. It's a different formulation from my Full Effect. So I'm just saying this on here because a lot of people asking like where to buy it on my website. All right. Today we're gonna so Thursday is when we do the regular show. It's July 4th. So I don't know what my family we have planned for July 4th. So I'm not sure. And then this was kind of like a last minute thing today. I'm not going to go to the gym. You know, when you feel I'm run down, it was like the photo shoot was 6 hours. The video shoot was like 6 or 7 hours. And, you know, posing, flexing. People don't understand how tired that is. After I would do photo shoots for the magazines, you would basically work out for like 8 hours. And like if you had like one with Muscle Mag and Ironman and whatever Muscle Fitness, you would sometimes only have one day or sometimes the same day. I would always get sick. I would get pneumonia, strep throat, just because you beat your immune system down so much. But after the shows, you have to do your shoots. And you need to take advantage of, you know, I even had to turn down a lot of work because it was just, you couldn't do that much. It was not physically possible because the magazines would usually go to the shows. Some magazines would fly you out before. Alex Ardenti with Muscle Mag and Reps, we always did stuff like 6 weeks out because I was always in shape. And then after your show, your face, for certain, it depends what kind of articles they were or spreads or cover. You know, after your show, a lot of people's faces, if they diet right, their faces are really, really sunken in. And sometimes they wanted to have like a fuller, healthier look. And then I would be in shape 6 weeks out. So I would have a fuller, healthier look to my face. And so that's what I kind of feel now, like just really beat up because I've only been training 3 days a week for the past forever. I'm just going to increase it to 4 soon. But I got in really pretty crazy shape for the photo shoot, and video shoot. So I'm pretty happy with both of those. So I'm going to start touching on today's subject, and then I'll answer some few questions. Like people send me a lot of questions. The problem is a lot of times they're the same question, you know, asked over and over and over. Okay. So we'll get into our first topic, which is about testosterone only cycles. People really, they think of a cycle in pro bodybuilding and getting big, and people always think you have to take all these different compounds. You know, yes, at the pro level, you know, when you're getting ready for a show, they're taking at least 15 different compounds. Okay, so a lot of people think like, okay, to stay big, you need to do this. And what I would do, and my 2 other friends, you know, Stephen Fraser and Chris Jalali, when we were growing up competing, Steve still competes. I prep him. He's doing the Tampa Pro in like 6 weeks, and then the Texas Pro after that, I believe. So sorry if I'm sniffling, guys, but I'm coming down with the cold, trying to fight it, but I've been kind of under the weather the last few days. So when your body's like that, like take off from the gym. When you're getting sick, take off from the gym. If you go to the gym and work out, you're putting others, like if you're contagious, you're putting them at risk, and you're just going to beat up your immune system even more. So it's funny because talking on TikTok, where I make a lot of content, now switching over to YouTube, TikTok, you can't say so many things on there. I mean, if someone like, suicide, you can't say suicide. You have to say unalived yourself. You have to say all these little lingo words on TikTok, and you can't talk about so many different subjects, and your videos will get violated. They'll get taken down a lot of times for no reason. Like if you're in the car and you do a video or a live video, it sometimes will just take it down or not post it because they think you're driving. It triggers it that you're driving while videotaping, and it says like dangerous activities. It's the craziest thing ever. So switching over to YouTube, I understand. Of course, I do RX Muscle every week, but switching over, I've got to understand I can talk more freely here. And it was really hard to get used to that TikTok lingo. You got to be like really careful what you say. It's nuts. But so we'll talk about some testosterone only cycles first. And then I know I didn't really announce today at all. I didn't that I was going to do anything because this was like last minute. We were going to go to the gym like 30 minutes ago, and I'm like, let's just rest today. We both don't feel good, and our little one, he's in camp right now, but the kids are, in summer camp. So, unless they have a fever, they're good to go, right? So, and then and if people come on and live in between and ask questions, I'll kind of like switch back and forth. So that's how we'll do it. So we would basically do an off season. We would come off our gear about 3 months and we would PCT. And so a lot of times our testosterone levels, it's not going to return like really high. But once I got to a certain age, then I would stay on TRT. I think it was like age 27. Then I'd always stay on a TRT dose. Sometimes it was usually like 200 milligrams every 7 to 10 days. Okay. And then, when you have your off season to grow, a lot of people think you got to take testosterone, tons of insulin, Anavar, D-ball, all this stuff. I literally felt the best on either only testosterone, like a gram of testosterone, or like, a gram of testosterone, maybe 800 milligrams and EQ, and that's it. And maybe a few I use a growth hormone. Insulin, I was never really big on. I did insulin a few off seasons, but just like the most was like 20 IUs a day. So I'd do like 10 in the morning. And I would start like when I started to first take insulin, I started very low. And the thing people don't understand about insulin is it can make you fat if you don't use it right. If you're eating bad, it can make you fat. And it gives a certain look to the muscle. If you abuse that in growth hormone, that is kind of like ruining pro bodybuilding today, in my opinion. So, but we would literally just take only testosterone cycles. If we were going to add something to it, we always love EQ, because I really don't know what everybody's talking about today when they're saying, oh, I get anxiety from EQ. We never felt that. And, I just recently got on EQ again. I don't feel that at all. So, how one person says one thing and then it kind of spreads like a wildfire, and then everybody thinks they're getting that side effect, right? But I would always feel good on that. EQ makes you hungry. It makes your muscles full. So I always found that anything toxic for me would kill my appetite. So like Anavar, I couldn't do Anavar, D-ball. Or if I did it, I couldn't eat my meals. So it's counterproductive, because you're able to, take the stuff and you might put on some water weight. So you're like, okay, I'm bigger and fuller, but then you literally can't eat your meals. I mean, it got to one point where if I thought about food, I would just kind of like gag. And so it was miserable. So testosterone only cycles are, if you can't get big on testosterone, there's a problem. Of course, you usually need to run anti-estrogen with it if you're doing only testosterone, especially, a higher dose, like a gram a week. But, a lot of people, when you run other compounds, like it can lower your estrogen too, like Masteron, Primo, all, EQ, those can kind of taper it off sometimes. So that's why blood work is so important. You got to get your blood work. You can't just guess what your levels are. Usually I'm pretty good about going off symptoms. If my estrogen's high, I convert very easily. And this last blood work, it wasn't. So, I took an AI for a little bit, but then I noticed I don't feel good. My joints hurt really bad, and it was, that AI. Okay, I'm gonna end. I'll kind of like throw in some questions as we go along. Go. I'm tapering off methadone, and it's hard to be motivated for the gym. Okay, this is a subject I'm well versed in. I never took methadone. I did take Subutex, Suboxone Subutex. It's going to take you a while. It's going to take you. It's going to take you a minute. Okay, so just do what you can. If it's 15 minutes, if it's 20 minutes, just get in there and do something. It's going to take a long time. I'm not sure how you're on methadone or how long you're on it and all that. It's going to take time, especially methadone is really rough and takes a long time to taper off of and withdraw from and all that. So just be prepared. It's going to take a while, and it's going to take a while till you feel normal again. Go to the gym, push through it, get, as much as you can. If it's walking on the treadmill for 15 minutes, if it's doing some 10-pound dumbbell curls, get it. And it's good for you to get out of the house. I mean, I know you probably have no idea. I understand, bro. I was addicted to opiates for 5 years, heavy, heavy doses. I understand. All right. What is the recommended testosterone level for males 30 and up? I've worked for clinics over the last 15 years, seminars, consulting, and then of course I've been coaching for 20 years. Most people feel their best between about 800 and 1,000. I feel, bro, I'm like 1,500. I feel my best. So most clinics will get, 1,000. They'll keep you there, but you gotta beware. A lot of these clinics, guys, a lot of their testosterone, wherever they're getting it from, whatever compound pharmacies, it happens more than people think. They underdose it. Okay, so I use a clinic I'm really happy with. You guys can just send me a DM and I'll send you the information, a DM on IG, and I'll just send you a link and you can, have a consult with them. They're really, really good and they're on point, and they're not going to they can prescribe 5 different, steroids, and a bunch of other stuff too. So it can get expensive, but you get what you pay for. So anybody that wants that, don't message me on here for it or anything like that. Just DM me on IG. I do get a lot of messages on IG, but I will try to, shoot it eventually to you, and you just click on the link and go straight there, fill it out, and that will set up a consultation with them, not with me, with them. Okay. If you wanted to do a consultation with me, my website, armandadb.com, go there and you buy a consultation on there. Okay. Mid 18. Everybody metabolizes things differently. Do not get blood work. I would suggest get blood work. I don't know how old you are now. A lot of these questions are hard to answer because I don't get enough information. So get some blood work. You're probably fine. So Islam. I'll say this: when I was coming off I had oxys dilaudid. I was on a lot of different things. It took me I was in bed for about 2 months, like not super, super sick for a whole 2 months, but I was, couldn't really do much for 2 months. And so I had to kind of like arrange. It was extremely hard. And then it took me probably about a year for I think my mind, my brain to get back to normal. So it's just going to take time. So, okay. Yeah, everybody's different. That's a rough drop. I came off because I pissed for Coke and they brought me from 175. Used meth man, it messed my head up. But bad fat burners and stims help. Okay. Guys, if you're on an MAT program, you guys can't mess around with other stuff. They will drop you, and then that's a good way to get back on just full blown. So really stay on the plan. It's important. It took me so many different times to come off opiates. Like, I mean, I began twice. Rapid detox that almost killed me. I talked about it on a different episode. At least 7, 8 different detox centers. I mean, it's hard, but there's no light at the end of the tunnel when you're in that situation. But once you get there and get your life back and all that, and life is good. Okay. I can think back about just like going through withdrawals and, having to go get all the whole, y'all know what I'm talking about. If you know what I'm talking about, it's just, oh my gosh, that was such a horrible time in my life. So if you had blood work and it's normal, you're fine. So, I mean, something like taking it once is not really going to mess you up. I mean, you want to stay away from toxic stuff on a regular basis, but I mean, oxys is basically just clean H. Of all my friends and everything, oxys are always a harder come off, okay, because it's pure. So of course H is dirty because it's cut with stuff and all that, but oxys were, I mean, for my friends that did both and all that, oxys were harder come off. Test with a little Anavar, 40 years old. That's perfect. That's what I've done for the past several years. After I retired for about 8 years, I didn't take anything for 2 years. I wanted to see where my testosterone levels got. And in 2 years, they were at 11. I felt terrible. I wasn't even working out those 2 years either. But the last 3 years, I added in Anavar. I only like doing it like in the spring and summer for like 6 weeks at a time. You can take it year round, but even though it's mild, it still will raise your liver enzymes and it still will mess up your cholesterol. And it works so much better. And even though VAR is not supposed to, kill your appetite, for me and a lot of other people, it does kill their appetite. So some men do stay on it year round. I don't, and it works better when you don't. So of course, when you get off of it, you're not as hard and all that, but that's how I like doing it. Just recently, a month and a half ago, I started a couple extra compounds for the first time in 8 years, and my body really responded well to them, as you can see from my photo shoot pictures I let out, and then my video shoot, like at the beginning, the ad that was literally a few days ago. Yep, I've been through the benzo one before. Benzo, it's all mental, right? And you can pass away from it. But opiates are, I think, way worse. Benzos are mental, opiates are physical and mental, but they're all bad. It's all horrible. So, but the benzos, people always say opiate withdrawal can't kill you. It absolutely can. Asphyxiating, throwing up, getting severely dehydrated, having kidney failure. But yeah, benzos are. If I've had 2 friends pass away, close friends pass away because they stopped cold turkey. They had a seizure and died. What do you think about being on 5 tests, C or E with 300 masks? I have all access to right now. Yeah, that's a good. And then you could probably, maybe avoid anti-estrogen with the mastron in there. So it's always nice when you don't have to take an AI because they're not the best for you if you don't have to take one, but you need to get your blood work done to see where your estrogen levels is, because if you're taking tests with mask is going to maybe affect your estrogen. Everybody's different. One person, it could cause their estrogen not to get high. Another person, it could not matter that much. So you really need to do your blood work to see what's best for you. Okay. Go a couple questions with, and then we'll get into a little bit like why does gear work better for some people than others? All right. So this question was, does Anavar heal tendons? Okay. To a certain extent, yes. Okay. So oxandrolone, was what it's called. The Anavar's brand name is, it's helped, reduce bone pain, people osteoporosis. It's helped people to cause weight gain after surgery, burns, severe trauma. And yes, when I take it, I do feel like my joints are better. And the only thing I don't like, it does mess with my appetite a little bit, so I can't eat as much. Okay. Any advice on rotator cuff and bicep surgery? I'm having both done at the same time. Okay. These are questions from my IG or YouTube I took down. I told the person I would answer them on my next live. Okay, so I've had 2 shoulder surgeries back to back, and I've had a tricep surgery, I've had a lot of surgeries. Okay. If you're going to, this is what I do. So in general, I would come off all your gear because you're having surgery, except for a little bit of testosterone and maybe a little bit of like NPP or VAR to help with your healing. I would definitely be on a few IUs of something growth hormone to boost your growth hormone levels, whether it's, if you can afford and find synthetic growth hormone, maybe like 2 to 3 IUs of growth hormone a day, or a product like our Seromax that we sell that's a pure MK677 for research that really, really helps. I'm not a huge fan of growth hormone releasing peptides just because you have to do them often throughout the day. And if you take something like, our Seromax, which is MK677, it's just a pill like at bedtime, and that keeps you 24 hours, your IGF levels raised. So that's way easier and it's way more effective. The only drawback for the MK and growth hormone in general, it can raise your blood sugars, and some people hold water. Usually the water retention, the longer you take it, your body gets used to it. When the blood sugar gets high, that's when you take something like, insulin. If you're on a high level and you're going to use insulin with it, I'm not a fan of insulin. So we make our GDA Convey right there that came out a couple months ago. It's selling like crazy. This was with ANG Labs. You can get it on my website, armandadv.com. That's going to lower your blood sugar. Okay. It also helps transport, like when you eat like a high carb meal, you take a few pills, and that helps transport the carbohydrates to your muscle instead of being like stored as fat, because a lot of people aren't that carb friendly and people still like to eat carbs. So that's what I would do. So everybody's surgery outcomes are different. Okay. I used to work as an OR rep. I did that for 2 years. I was really, really burnt out on training people in the gym and contest prep. So what I did is I scaled back on, both of those, contest prep and training in the gym. So I worked as an OR rep. My friend got me a job doing it. It was a lot to learn. So basically you're in the operation room, you're bringing the tools, all screws, whatever goes in the body part for ortho stuff. Most of those surgeons was scary to watch. A lot of them did not care. I worked with a little Indian doctor. He was a hand-foot surgeon, ortho, and he did not care if he didn't do a good job. He would literally be like, oh, they'll be back. That's more money in my pocket. He was literally the devil. And a lot of surgeons are absolutely nuts. Do you understand? They go to school and it's tough. And a lot of them, they don't have the social skills that other people might have if they're out in the real world. They're in the books nonstop. And a lot of them, not all of them, because there's some really good surgeons that are good people and I'm friends with too. But a lot of them are just, they don't have like bedside manners. They don't have, like the skill set to like communicate right, or morally they're a little warped. Like I was in the OR before. This guy, I believe he was getting like a knee surgery. This doctor, he was about an hour and a half from me. I'm in Dallas, like Sunnyvale or something like that. He freaked me out. every morning I would work for him. Like I'd have cases for him maybe like twice a week. He would come up like this far from my face. I'm like, this morning I did 50 burpees and this and CrossFit. And I'm like, oh, cool, man. Like it wasn't to someone else, it might be intimidating. It was just weird to me. I'm like, it was like an aggressive way to, it was really weird. He was probably in his 50s and he was an awful surgeon. So one day, this guy's, I mean, I had several issues with him, but this was an issue with him. This guy's blood pressure went up during surgery. So, you know, that's anesthesiologist's job to kind of handle all that. And so he started like bleeding out, like the blood was like all over the floor. This surgeon starts kicking and like, just like kicking the surgical table this guy's on. The body's like flopping. I'm like, this is nuts. Most of the time you wear foot slippers in there because sometimes you would get madder on the floor, especially if they were doing like knees and stuff like that. But yeah, they do some crazy stuff. So you got to be careful what surgeon you go to. Make sure you get a good surgeon. A lot of times your insurance, that's why it's important to have good insurance, especially if you're bodybuilding, lifting. Because if you get injured, like especially bicep or tricep, pec, where when you have those type of tears, you need to have surgeries within usually weeks. If you don't attach it within weeks, it's too hard to attach if months go by. Okay, so always tell bodybuilders have insurance and make sure it's good. And when you go to a surgeon, I would go to a couple different surgeons, get different opinions, what they're going to do, ask questions, look up stuff on the internet yourself. Don't just rely on that surgeon. Okay, so. Test is best. It absolutely is. Work at a hospital. The doctors do sketch stuff in opera rooms. I've seen. Yeah, unfortunately, you know, they do. You know, my wife, she is a doctor at the heart hospital. And, you know, a lot of those surgeons, you can't say anything to them because you can lose your job. Because if you say something, even like constructive criticism or like try to tell them something that that's not their job, like whether it's like rehabilitating a patient or something like that, that's not their job. They perform the surgery. That's their job. Rehabbing the patient, physical therapy, that is not their job. So a lot of times they try to release patients and it's not time for them to be released. And, you know, so be really careful. So. Slight tear and tendon in your right arm 2 years ago, and I'm still in pain because of it. Can't work out. What should I do? They gave me cortisone shots that didn't work. Okay, so I would try. So when the cortisone is temporary, and you can't do them that often, it's going to weaken the tendon even more. So I like PRP. That's where you take your blood out, they spin it, put the plates back in you. I've done PRP. Gosh, I don't know how many times. PRP has worked a lot for me in certain injuries. I would just Google in your area like PRP. There's some crazy surgeons that charge like $3,000 for like an honest, like good doctor, like the one I use here in Dallas. He charges around $500, $600 each, you know, shot. But that's going to help with inflammation and that's going to help with healing. Okay, so if you haven't done an MRI on it, I'm not sure if you have or not. You need to see how bad the tendon, the slight tear is, and it might need eventually, you know, surgery. Probably at this point, not if it's a slight tear. So look into PRP, and of course, be using BPC 157, TP 500. Those are healing peptides. Those can help a lot too. So I would do both of those things. Okay. I have no idea. He just did a podcast with Mark Bell, and I think I've talked to him a few times. I mean, I think maybe he's read wrong a lot. I never had a problem with him. I mean, we've talked back and forth on social media before. I mean, everything was fine. So Some people just are different, hard to read. Some people aren't laughy, smiley all the time. Some people seem serious, and sometimes they're not always that way. But um, I know I responded completely different to gear than my friends did. I had been training for 5 years. Everyone I noticed so was on something. Yeah. So the next, we'll go back and forth between those two topics, and then Q&A today. Um, you got, first off, there's a lot of fake gear out there, underdose gear. So let's talk about that. Okay. Unfortunately, if you're not getting like prescription gear, or they can only prescribe certain ones here in the States. And then you can, if certain people have certain hookups in other countries, they can get prescription stuff there sent here, which is, I wouldn't recommend. That's risky. Um, but let's say that it's not underdosed and that it is real. People respond to different stuff differently. I mean, I've had friends that can literally take like 3 Anadrols a day and be fine. Just be taking 1 Anadrol a day, I couldn't eat my food. It would destroy my appetite. Everybody reacts differently. Muscle gaining too. I've had some of my friends that were the smallest, they took the most gear. And a lot of them would even eat right too and train. You got to understand it comes back to genetics. I talk about it all the time. Genetics are a huge factor. That's why when people think like gear is magic, it's like bodybuilders, the top bodybuilders are the top bodybuilders because one, genetics. They have the genetics. They're able to put a lot of muscle on, and they have a certain shape to them. You can see a guy in the gym, you're like, man, he's so big, he's so jacked. He's probably a top bodybuilder. They could get on stage and they could have like a weird, shaped midsection. They could have narrow clavicles. They could have like awkward looking joints, and they don't do well because, some of the best bodybuilders in person, like Phil Heath, of course, Phil Heath's big in person, but you're not like, oh my gosh, this guy's so massive. But when he got on stage under those lights, those pretty big, full muscles just shredded to the bone, his structure, yes, his clavicles were a little narrow. He got his shoulders so big that it really didn't matter later on in his career. So it has so much to do with your structure too. And people respond. Like, I've been coaching people for 20 years, and each person is not going to respond to the same drug the same way. That's why I'm not a huge fan of all these, like, I don't know, whatever you want to call them, science-based, or biohackers or all that, because when they talk about a compound, what they do, they read studies, they read, whatever studies were done, literature, and then that's what they talk about. They don't have, like, most of them don't have like real life experience coaching people, using it with people, because people react differently to everything. One compound I can take, it can make the other person feel sick, the other person feel anxious, the other person feel, and with muscle gaining effects too. That's why, I've coached people and made a living at it for so long, because I figure out what works for that person. We get feedback and we find out, because everybody reacts to food differently, gear differently, training differently, and there is a science to it. But there's a lot of people that's overcomplicating stuff way too much also. So, okay. Microdosing. If I'm doing like a TRT, I usually do the TRT dose in the winter. I would just do, let's say, 2 shots a week. Yeah, I mean, some people can get injectable Anadrol. I took that before, and that was awesome because that didn't have all the gastro side effects, and it didn't mess up your appetite. So that's a good alternative. It's just hard to find someone that makes that. Okay. Going back to TRT dose, 75 a week. When I'm at 100, 150, it's too much. I feel like I'm on a cycle. Okay. Yeah, everybody's different. I have to take 300 milligrams a week, at least between 300 and 400 for my levels just to be 1,000. Okay. Of course, I started bodybuilding and I did bodybuild competitively for a while. So I know other people that need, very little. And some people, the clinic I work, not work for, but, work with, some people need 400 milligrams of testosterone to get them to 1,000. So a lot of people's like, oh, that's a psych. No, everybody is different. Okay. You have to go by your blood work and what your numbers get to. A lot of people, if they get their testosterone levels too high, they don't feel good. I've had clients before that they're like, do you think we can raise my testosterone? I don't think I'm taking enough because I don't really feel good. I'm like, get blood work. They go get their blood work. Their testosterone's crazy through the roof. I'm like, we need to actually lower your testosterone. That's why you're feeling bad, because your testosterone was way too high. And it gets to the point where it's this diminishing effects. Like, you're not going to feel better or get bigger. You're just going to get side effects and feel worse. So that's why a lot of people gear too. I'll talk about like my friend Chris Jalali, rest in peace. He was one of my best friends growing up. He was like, Boston Lloyd was a good friend of mine too. He was like Boston Lloyd with his gear. For a while, his body just stopped responding, to gear completely. He eventually found out he had liver cancer. Okay. He just like, his liver was like pickled with tumors. Okay. The doctors told him that it wasn't from the steroid use, but he did take a lot of GH2, and that makes cancer cells spread. I believe it probably was from the gear use. I mean, he was young. I guess he was about 33 when he found out, or maybe younger. And he got a liver transplant. I was his support guy. When you get a like a kidney or liver transplant, you have to have a support system. So I went with him. I was the one that was gonna like agree to make sure if he gets the liver, he's gonna take care of it. He's not gonna abuse it again. I'm gonna make sure I'm there for him. Like, if he needs someone to talk to, they want to make sure you're going to take care of that organ before they give someone an organ or they'll give it to someone else. So he actually missed. So when you're on the transplant list, you have a different phone. That phone you take everywhere. When that phone rings and your organ's ready, you have within 6 hours to get to the hospital. If you miss, it goes to the next person on the list. Okay. I wake up one morning, my phone is like blown up, calls, texts, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. No one could get a hold of Chris. So this guy goes to out to the country, like hangs out with some girl out there. Both of his phones die, and he misses his liver transplant. Luckily for him, he like 3 months later, and he got one, but eventually he passed away from oxycodone overdose. He had a really bad jaw surgery. He broke his jaw, didn't take care of it, had to get another jaw surgery. And the night before, he's like, I'm in so much pain, bro. Was it a suicide? They didn't deem it a suicide, but he was at a pretty low point. He already had a liver transplant. He couldn't bodybuild anymore. He was just he was sad. He was, he was just not a happy person. He had a lot of sadness and with him, and and he reminds me of Boston, because I know no matter how much I was there for him or friend I was or whatever, he was never gonna they were never gonna get off, and he passed away. Actually, it was when he did, the night before he passed away, he's like, man, I'm in so much pain. I was like, bro, stop taking oxys. Like, and, I told the story before, and it's a little more in depth, but, sad. Yeah, it's some people when I would take it, my kidneys would hurt, like ache, literally ache. Okay, so my dad is from Iran. My dad is still alive or close. He comes over every week, every other week. Um, he came over here when he was 18. He went back once or twice, I believe, early on, and then never went back. He never took my mom over there. My mom was blonde hair, blue eyes. Um, and I never went over there. He never felt comfortable enough to take us over there. So no, never been. It would have been cool to see Ron, but and even now it's a little scary. And there's been some scary stories where people go over there to visit, and it's not good. 6 weeks after a cycle of 700 tests, I still have mid-range psychological test in my blood. I'm one of those who metabolizes tests very slowly. Yep. Boston. I befriended Boston. He was, I guess it was around 2012. That was when I was prepping a lot of national guys, turning them pro, and he contacted me to help to talk about prep. And this is after his crazy video came out where he was talking about what all he took at a really young age. And I was like, bro, like, there's no way I could work with you because I'm not okay with telling you how to. You're going to abuse your body. He already was, and so that's how we became friends. We stayed friends over the years, and then the year before he passed, the 3 years before he passed, we got really close, and then last year we did the podcast with Leo, which got murdered in Thailand. I wasn't friends with Leo. I just did a podcast. Boston asked me to come on. People liked the podcast. It was a good little trio. Even though Leo was really horrible to everybody, nasty to everybody for no reason, he still did a good job like running the podcast, and the podcast did do pretty well for that year I did it. So um so most of the tests they prescribe is either usually Cypionate or Nanthate. They rarely prescribe propionate. I know some compounding pharmacies that do it. Or you're probably getting it on your own if you think it's bunk, right? So get it from a doctor. I don't know why so many people get it on the street. It from a doctor, it's real. Like I said, if you want the clinic I use, they're very easy to work with. They have other compounds they can prescribe. It's shipped straight to you. It's all legal. It's all legit. Everybody's different. Some people, you can read on like the half-life and all that, but still, like I said, what it says on paper doesn't. Everybody's different. Like when I start tests, I start usually feeling the effects like week 2. To really kick in, I would say about 3 to 4 weeks. So, I would probably go get your blood work done, like I tell everybody to see where your levels are at. After a few weeks, especially after week 4, it should be elevated. So if it's not, it is. Or you can check with the Roy test, roytest.com. They sell tester kits. Dave Palomo sells them on his site too, and test it. Even though if there's a little baby of testosterone in it, it's going to test positive as testosterone though. So that's the thing. It doesn't tell the milligram. It just tells if it's real or not. So. Yeah. The COVID shot, I'm just running higher dose of gear. A lot of people have arrhythmias. That's like a lot of people had issues from the shot too. I don't care. That's crazy when people still deny that the shot has caused damage. And I just, happy me or my family, I didn't get it. So I knew when they were pushing something that hard, that's not a normal vaccine that they push on you like that. Like, you can't work if you can't get this. So I already knew what kind of that deal was about. And so, yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people have had health problems, deaths, all that. So, but when I coach people, I just don't do like here's your plan. We make sure their health is good too. All my clients stay healthy. So like, I require blood work and we monitor your health and all that too. So when people hire me, they think maybe I just get people big. No, I really read their blood work. We make sure, everything's good. It's not one size fits all. And I'm not one of these people that takes on like tons of clients where I can't even get to them. Like, I'm always reachable. And so a lot of people hire me just for health stuff too. So I would look into coaching. All my details are on my website. What's up? What's up? There's not an average dose to get like a guy big. I mean, if you can't, like I said, if you can't get bigger on like just a like 800 milligrams, you don't want to start with that. Obviously, my first cycle was literally 200 milligrams of test a week, and I blew up on that. Eventually, my sweet spot was a gram of test a week, but I was already 240 pounds at that time. So, if you can't get big on just testosterone, like 800 milligrams to 1,000 milligrams, there's a problem. That's all you need to get big. If you're competing, that's a different story, because you need hardeners and fat burners and a lot of other different stuff to compete or to get that look, of a competitor. But mainly, if you're dieting and you're on testosterone and, a little bit of growth hormone product, like it could be synthetic growth hormone. If you can't afford that, our product Seromax, which is pure MK677, that works wonders. I mean, people that literally has changed people's lives. So. Um, he thought, sorry, Leo had Boston believing he could bring his creatinine levels down, like get out of kidney failure. So what happened was we've talked about it so many times, so I'm not going to go way into the details again. But if Boston would have went ahead and started like agreeing to get the kidney transplant, they would have checked his heart out. They would have solved the problem, and they would have fixed his heart. He'd probably still be alive. Yeah, yeah. That was kind of like I took a break. Like when I was my opiate use, I was also burnt out with the bodybuilding scene. So I still coached people. I just I still went to shows here and there. I just had to take a break. People get burnt out, man. I mean, this is, a lot of people, they'll compete, and then once they retire, they disappear. You won't ever see them again. People get burnt out. Then some people come back later. Like, I had to take a break. I came back, and then I got on their podcast. Boston one asked me to come on there. I said, yeah. And it was a good trio. It eventually got difficult at the end with Leo. His behavior was real erratic. And then that's when, I told him I wasn't interested in doing it anymore. And then Boston passed away not too long after that. So, and then I think we were still going to try to do it. Yeah. We were still going to try to do it because Leo didn't flip out on me yet. And it was going to be Leo, myself, and Blue. And then Leo flipped out on me and Blue. And for no reason. And I just said, bro, like he just said something like really rude. And I was just like, bro, I'm not interested in doing the podcast anymore. And so I checked my phone later. It was on WhatsApp because he was in like Portugal or something. He left because he had a warrant out for, I guess, domestic violence with his wife, and he threatened the baby and crazy stuff. But I don't want to get into all that talking about it. But yeah, so it was like, he was like, no, bro, like, I'm sorry. I want you on the podcast. Please. I'm sorry I was rude. Please. So the first few messages, there were talk messages, like talk text. And, I was like, I'm still not going to be on the podcast. But I was like, dude, that's fine. Whatever. I forgive you, but I'm not going to be on the podcast, whatever. But I checked all these messages at once, and they were like, please forgive me, please be on the podcast. And then like the last couple of ones, like, F you, I never liked you anyways. I'm like, wow, this guy. But he did that to everybody. Everybody he had dealings with in industry, he flipped out on. So, it had a lot to do with all the biohacking, taking stuff to stay up, to study a bunch of stuff, taking stuff to go to bed. Like myself, this is all like, I don't go study like these biohackers do. I did all that at the beginning. And of course, I still study and all that, but they pretty much reading regurgitate. Mine is from all experience, because like I said, what it says on paper doesn't translate in everybody's bodies the same way. So you can't go off all literature. And I think way too many people do that now, and they don't understand everybody's body is different. So yeah, I mean, he would like joke around with me, hey man, I just injected 20 bottles of peptides, and like he would do stuff like that. He had this weird thing about syringes where he would just reuse the same ones, and he had like a company that would send him. He would just Boston did some really, really odd stuff. So I don't know who that is. I've never, if I have, I'm really bad with names, but I don't know who that is. I can look it up right now. Let me see on my phone. Kurt Havens. I don't know who that is. I've never seen any of his stuff. I don't know who he is. There's a lot of these people that come out of the woodwork, and you're like, you got to ask yourself, where do they come from? Were they competitive bodybuilders? Like, who were they? And a lot of these people trust their word, and they really don't have much experience. They read a lot, and they're kind of like nerds that just read a lot. And like I said, read and regurgitate. But to actually apply the stuff, whether it be coaching or in real life, they don't know how to do that. So there's a lot of those type of people. I remember, I know like Derek More Plates More Dates. A lot of people like love him. I don't really know him personally. I've never had a conversation with him, so I really don't know. All I know is, when he actually had to go to the gym and work out one day, like he literally didn't even know how to do exercises, and he was like, didn't know names exercises, didn't know how to do certain exercises. It was weird. It was like, what? Like, and that kind of exposed him in a way. So that's all I'm going to say with that, because I don't know him personally. He might be, I don't know. Yeah, and so me, lately, the past several years, I coach more lifestyle people than bodybuilding. I still have my competitors, but I keep it below a certain amount, because competition clients require a lot more energy, and of course, it's a lot more detailed that goes into it. So yeah, Blue has a lot of prep clients. I don't know how he handles that many. When we talk, we have to literally schedule a time so we can like have a friendly conversation, because he's that busy. We were going to do some stuff together on here. It's just going to be really hard for him to. He takes on so many clients. I don't do that. I would lose my mind. Competitive clients, I usually keep it under. And I kind of rotate some. Some are in off season, some are in prep mode. But he deals with some crazy stuff from clients. I wouldn't put up with a lot of crazy stuff. But we'll probably get on here soon. We plan to. I think a regular basis might be just hard for him, because his coaching. I did spray tan the other day, so if you guys want to know why I'm darker in some areas, spray tan. But we'll probably get together on here and do something sooner than later. All right, we're going to move on from the Boston Leo stuff. We've talked a lot about it today, and we've talked about in the past on that. But Do you believe you can decent TRT you can grow after 10 years of blasting gear? I don't think you can grow. You can probably maintain. Like I maintained a certain size on TRT, and then what I started to do, I would do TRT half the year, and then the other half of the year I would go up to like 800 milligrams, test 500 milligrams to 800 milligrams, and that worked good for me. So, um, you know, I felt better, of course, on higher testosterone. So on TRT, I still didn't feel my best, but I just did it for health purposes, not staying on a high dose of testosterone year round. So my blood work didn't get bad. It's just I didn't want it to be bad. So, but no, you're not going to be able to like blast gear for your whole life and then like get off. No, you'll be able to maintain a size. Like I maintain a really big size just on TRT, but no. It's funny because well, I guess it goes back to like time period. You know, I'm 40 and I started competing when I was 80. So you had like different waves of fans and followers. Like you had the magazine days, you had the internet website days, and so um, before that podcast, I was already kind of like I said, for those previous years, I kind of took a hiatus from bodybuilding, like altogether, like the scene, any shows, all the any podcasts for that matter. And then when I came back, I'm like, well, like, you know, I guess a lot of people didn't follow at that time because I wasn't, you know, but I understand a lot of people are just getting into bodybuilding. So you're probably young. Because a lot of the guys that are 30, 35 and over, they remember me from magazines and all those big days when I was competing. So 2013 Metroplex documentary. Yeah, I mean that was pretty cool because that got a lot of notoriety there because it wasn't even supposed to be on Netflix. It was the Discovery Channel that actually shot that, and then Netflix picked it up. Ask a few more questions. I got to go pee. I hate doing it, but I got to go. Right. Back. Yeah, so that Netflix documentary, it was really cool because I didn't even know it was on Netflix because Discovery Channel shot it. I didn't know when it was coming out on Discovery Channel, and then I think I went to the bodybuilding show, like the Ronnie Coleman, one of the local shows here, and everybody's like, "Oh man, that was awesome on Netflix." And I'm like, "What?" Like they're like, "Oh, the documentary." So I was like, "Oh, okay." So Netflix picked it up. I think like a couple years. So that got a lot of notoriety. So that was really cool. And it was funny because I wasn't even supposed to be. I'll tell you show you how things work. So I wasn't even supposed to be in the documentary. So they already like contacted Ronnie Coleman and Branch Warren. Branch Warren, most documentaries you don't get paid for them. Okay. So Branch Warren wanted to actually get paid, and he was kind of being a little difficult. He ended up doing it anyways. His manager got it linked up for him, and they didn't pay him, but he was fine. Whatever. I don't. Me and Branch, we never really have a conversation. Like, I'm good friends with Johnny Jackson, but me and Branch never spoke that much, even though I grew up in Arlington. Me and Ronnie spoke a bunch. We even trained together for 3 months, and good friends with Johnny Jackson too. So I was prepping a guy at the time, Corey Matthews, and he was with Ronnie Coleman Supplement Company. And they were going to be shooting that day. And they kind of, people knew they were shooting a documentary about bodybuilding. That's all that was known. So I was like, cool, man, maybe they could use someone else. I'm prepping for nationals. I'm in really good shape. So he was like, yeah, they're shooting at 3:00. So you should come up there around 3 and maybe they can use you too. So he was lying. Okay. So just so happens, mostmuscular.com was a website that when I first got started bodybuilding at 18, he got a lot of notoriety and a huge following and fan base at that time. That was back in 2002. Joe LaBelle, he rest in peace. That was his website, mostmuscular.com, and it no longer exists, but he shot all of us. And he, at a young age too, he would pick the good teenagers. He had a good eye for bodybuilding. And so we got me, Chris Jalali, Stephen Frazier, we got a huge following for mostmuscular.com. And then, so he was in town and he was like, hey, do you want to shoot some stuff today? I was like, yeah, they're supposed to be doing this documentary up at Metroplex around 3. Why don't we go around 11, shoot, then go eat lunch, and I can maybe come back. So I show up at 11 to shoot up there, and the documentary people are already up there. So Corey purposely told me the wrong time so I wouldn't go up there or get seen or anything like that. And he's the guy in the documentary. So he was supposed to be like the majority in the documentary. And then they had another guy too. I forgot his name. That was supposed to be in there. So I'm like, I think it was like 3 weeks out from nationals. I was in the best shape, obviously. So I walk in there, I start with training a little bit, and they're all kind of, it was a team there's about 20 people from the Discovery Channel. They were all from England. So they come over and they're like, hey, like, we're doing a documentary on bodybuilding. Like, we love your look. Do you think you want to be in some of it? I'm like, absolutely, of course. Who wouldn't? And so they're kind of talking, and then they come talk to me a little bit more, and they're like, hey, we really want you in it. And what we're going to do, we have another guy. We're going to put him in like a clip where he's doing maybe a set or two, but we're going to tell him that we're replacing him with you. And I'm like, he's going to love that. And then it was pretty much, I had the most screen time in there, pretty much. They had me like, and that just goes to show you when you try to screw people over, it backfires, you know? So that guy did a lot of people kind of shady though. He lived here for a while, used anybody he could. He was one of those fake preachers. And then I think he moved back to Vegas and does that same thing. Just uses ministry and all that to actually rip off people and scam people. It's sad because there's a lot of people like that. They get into certain situations where people, you know, depend on them and they use people. So it backfired on him because I was in the documentary a lot more than him. And, you know, they had me going to the chiropractor, going to get spray tan, training. So it really worked out, and it was really, really cool. Dave's podcast. Yeah. So I went, and then after Leo's, you know, I started with Dave's. I've been friends with Dave for 20 years. So no one's going to have a problem with me being friends with somebody. But it did get to a point where it was out of control, Leo wise. And, you know, they were like, every episode, they were like wanting me to bash him, Dave. And I was like me and Dave, we weren't talking so much then, you know. I was like, I think newly clean, like from opiates, and we didn't get into argument or anything. You know how you just kind of stop talking to somebody for a little bit, and they kept saying, "Well, just say this about him. Just say this about him." So I think one episode, me and David spoke about it before. He's like, "Thank and I said some things that I shouldn't have said, and I didn't like that because I'm usually really good at being my own person, but it was basically Leo just really pressured me to like say some sideways things, whatever you want to call it. So I did, and then Dave texted me. He's like, "Dude, what's up?" Like, so we talked on the phone, apologized, and he's like, "Man, why ain't with that guy is a bad guy?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm starting to figure that out. He's a really bad guy." And I was like, I didn't even tell Dave at that time that I was already left the podcast. He didn't know. And so I think we spoke like a week later, and I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm not going back to the podcast. I'm not going to be a part of that negativity." And he's like, "Yeah, come on, Arcs Muscle." I went on, and people like me on there, so I'm been a staple on there. Friends get into arguments. Listen, like just like family, you argue, you say some not nice things. It happens. Okay. The thing is, being a man and saying sorry and taking accountability for that. So Dave does not dislike him at all. And then I asked him, I don't know why. I don't know. I really don't know his problem with Dave. Some people just dislike other people for no particular reason. I don't really know, but I don't dwell on it. Like me and Dave are really close friends. We're going to go get stem cell pretty soon. So I respect him a lot. I did at a young age. He helped me with several shows, and he's like a person I always looked up to, and a person I call like a best friend now. Dave's been there for me through a lot of rough times, and I think when I was going through my opiate thing, he was really hard on me, but it was tough love, and I think it was just I was just in a bad place. But no, I could be friends with two different people. I mean, me and Dave, we're very close friends. I consider him one of my best friends. So likable guy in the industry. Appreciate that. It's funny because I get so much hate and trolls. It's probably the same people over and over. Here's my deal. I always give people respect as long as I give it back. I'm going to be respectful of somebody. If I do critiques, it's always like constructive criticism. I try not to badmouth people. I call it how it is. And the thing is, a lot of people don't like that. They want to steer. You see these podcasts and you see these guys lying through their teeth. You just had on the Menace podcast the other day, Matt Jensen on there. He was just lying through his teeth about a lot of stuff. No, I've never seen anybody inject their traps. Why would somebody do dude? You got a lot of these podcasts and people do not tell the truth and they lie. So since I finally decided to start doing, some YouTube stuff, and I'm going to stick with it now like this, there's no reason to lie. It's really weird. Even about my past, about my, people like, "Oh, you did gay for pay or gay muscle worship." Yeah, I posed for gay guys. Who cares? You would too if you were getting paid the money that I did. So it's not a big deal. So people just dislike people a lot of times because they're jealous or envious. It's just part of life, and it doesn't affect me. I have thick skin. You shouldn't do podcasts or any kind of social stuff, media stuff, if you don't have thick skin, because if you don't, you're going to get offended really easy. And there's a lot of people that they're not cut out for it. They can't, I'm like, who cares if some random comment with a picture of a cat or a mouse or whatever, it's just rarely a real person, says some, troll comments. Who cares? I mean, no, but come on, bro. when you have all these people following, you think you're the end all to information. You know, I know I don't think he called himself a coach ever, but it's just like asking an AI like bot questions. So that's my thought on him. So anabolic doc, there was a guest doctor. They said that your test sub Q was 10 to 15 more effective. Just wondering what I thought. So let's do it. I don't like doing a sub Q. I've done it before. I just don't like how it feels. I just don't like how it feels. So does it really matter? I mean, everybody's going to absorb kind of stuff differently. So you could do it either way, whatever you're most comfortable with. I'm not going to say it works better to do sub Q. Yep, massive, huge. I don't know if you're serious, but if some people are, no, it makes your testicles smaller, obviously. It should not mess with your Johnson bigger or smaller. Okay. If you don't use gear right, it can cause some ED problems, though. So, absolutely, I will. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. You were turned off by bodybuilders for the longest time, and now see the guys like Armand and John Meadows that are good guys, like Greg says. Can't stand Rich Piana type 4. Okay. So, John Meadows was a good guy. There was really nothing bad to say about him. We did a seminar together for FitCon one year, and yeah, I mean, not together, but he was like first, and I was second. We were both appeared there. They hired us both, but so I knew Rich Piana. Okay, so I'll tell you this: Rich Piana. People have to remember it was like a wrestling persona. That wasn't Rich Piana on film. That was an act. That was a persona. These 8-arm workouts, these fake plates, like people miss a lot of satire. And I told Rich, I go, bro, people think you're serious. They don't understand satire. A lot of people, especially these days and new generations and stuff. I'm not saying a generation is not smart or don't get stuff, but I'm saying these days, more people seem to not have as much common sense. I think it's the fact that too many people spend too much time online when, we grew up playing in the neighborhood, in the woods, in the streets, kind of like interacting more with people. So you kind of pick up on social cues a little differently. But in person, he was really chill and laid back. And I hung around Rich numerous occasions. I was with his company even for about a year and a half, and got along great. So his personality was nothing like online. Okay. A lot of people have to understand, like, good morning, motherfuckers, all this. Like in the morning, he's just like everybody else, like not excited. That was an act. So a lot of people that took it too seriously, and there's some really diehard fans that believed everything he said and I'm like, that was satire. You don't do 8-arm workouts, or you don't do a lot of stuff, feeder training, whatever, 100 curls at night. He didn't do any of that stuff. It was just content. People don't understand that. So I'm different. I'm on here and I give it to you straight up. I don't need to have an internet personality. That's not something I want to do. I'm on here and this is me and this is who I am. In person, I probably joke a lot more. So people think I'm a lot more serious than I am. I'm not. In person, I joke a lot, but Rich was nothing like he was online. He was just chill. So I do too, man. I do too. Things get different over time, and you just gotta roll with it. There's different times in every eras that people consider the best, and I'm just happy I got to experience bodybuilding when I did, and I first got into it. There were some really, really memorable. all my best memories are literally like when I first got into bodybuilding and the way we were treated and the magazines and how they flew us first class places and contracts. It was a really cool time, and the shows was like a magical place, and I liked it because it was more niche then. Now it's more mainstream with bikini and men's physique and all these other classes. It was really cool because we got in it because we loved bodybuilding, not because we want to become popular or become an internet sensation and all that. That's not why we got into bodybuilding. So it was just a more raw, legit time. So, you know, and I'm glad we didn't have to deal with all the IG silliness and all that. It was just put our phones up, train, and we love bodybuilding. And if you got into the magazines, you got into the magazines. That was our goal. That was like the ultimate goal, to make it to the magazines. And when growing up, my favorite magazine was Muscle Mag. That was my favorite magazine. I loved the pictures in there, how they shot stuff. I loved the articles, everything I loved in there. And that's who I got eventually a contract with. And that was like a really happy time and fun, cool time for me. So I miss that. We say the weird word weird too much. So that's a word, weird. There's a lot of weird stuff that happens in bodybuilding. I don't know what to say. Yeah, they did take a lot of what he said seriously. You got to take a lot of people, especially with real amped up personalities. You got to understand that. I thought people understood, but no, people take a lot of stuff what he said seriously. Yeah, I mean, so I did my first two shows natural, and it wasn't even something you spoke about. You weren't like there wasn't like this big division between people that were natural and not natural. It's weird now. Like if you were natural for a show, cool. If you weren't, cool. The people didn't care. And people, like, I remember going places. The world has just changed. Okay. It's a weird, weird, super weird world. I mean, I remember going places and getting this respect for looking the way I did. Now people are like, ugh, steroids. They want to, but people look, just look how things are though. Things that go viral, the most popular music today. I think it's the worst music ever, like mumble rap and all that stuff. All Cardi, whatever's Cardi B, all these different rappers. It's horrible music. I love, like, the 90s grunge and all that and rock and all that. But it's just a different time, different world. It's a very different world. It sucks because I mean, things were a lot cooler back then, but it's hard to explain. Like, it's like when I'm listening to my dad or grandfather before he passed, like, talk about back in my day, it's hard to understand that. But I think a more simpler way of life, and when life gets more complicated, even though we can do a lot more today, you got your phone where people can get a hold of you 24/7. It's nice because it's good for business and other things, but it was nice before, when people had to call your house and, when you were a kid, ask for you if you were there. But if you're not that age, you don't remember those times because you didn't live through them. So you're not going to care about them. So yeah, that was just a content. So, Boston, of course I miss Boston. I've lost, like, when you have friends, you have like acquaintances, then you have like your friends that are like your best friends. So Boston didn't live here, so we really didn't see each other in person. But especially the last year before he passed, he went to bed like at 4 or 5 in the morning, and I had insomnia. So we would text for hours about silly stuff and goofy stuff. And he was about 10 years younger than me. So trust me, I try to tell that. I try to really, a lot of people try to help Boston. But unfortunately, people are going to do what they're going to do. So I've lost a lot of really close people in my life. And, you know, it's life, though. It happens. I could be gone tomorrow, you know. So, best memory. So I liked how he used to just rag on people. So when Boston gave people a hard time, there was no malicious intent at all. He just loved, like, that's just how he was. He didn't have, I don't think he had a bad bone in his body. He didn't have a hateful bone in his body. You know, you gotta remember, he was 10 years younger too. So we would talk, and there was still such an innocence about him. Like, we would have conversations, and he would be like, I remember one day we were talking, and he's like, bro, like, that's crazy. He's like, you had a wild life, Armand. And this is Boston talking. So there's different kind of wilds. He's like, man, you know, I've only been with like 4 girls in my life. My wife is like my 4th girl I've been with. I'm like, you're kidding, right? He's like, no, I've just never been into that life. And I'm like, on the other hand, was a total opposite. I was, stripped when I was younger, and was around a bunch of women. And eventually, if I could go back in time, I would take all those crazy girls and times out of my life. It's a waste of time, like chasing women and, oh man, look at that, like all that. That's you're more of a man if you can control yourself and stay away from all that. So it's not hard to go hook up with somebody or hook up with some hot girl. That's the easy part. The hard part is that person getting attached, you getting rid of them, or to have self-control and be like, you know what? Probably not going to have a future with this girl. When you hook up with a person, like I didn't understand this at a younger age, but it makes it less special when it's supposed to be special eventually. Like when you get married or have a bond with somebody, it means less. So you kind of gotta, younger people and all that. I didn't understand it, but I do now. Once I got older, that's why I changed. So I don't know. Boston started to figure out that he wasn't okay. And thing is, Leo used Boston he used several different people to get kind of into the bodybuilding industry and world. So Boston at the end figured that out. And probably several months before he passed away is like, man, I'm finally understanding, like, and feeling like Leo used me. He's not a good person. He's not a real friend. And so he understood that, I would say about 3 months before he passed away. And then, for a while, Leo ghosted, and Boston couldn't even get a hold of him. And, we weren't shooting the videos. Leo just disappeared. It was weird for I think it was like a month or 2 straight. And that hurt Boston's feelings that this guy just ghosted on him. And he knew then that he wasn't his real friend, because he figured it out then. So he talked a few times on IG messages about my ex leaving me in addiction. Helped me a lot. You're welcome, bro. Stay strong, bro. Stay strong. Stay strong. Where's Larry? This is my YouTube. So we'll collab. We plan to do it like once a week. If that works out, we'll continue to do it. So this is my channel. So when we do our show, it's run on his YouTube and my YouTube. So it's ran on the same platform, or different platforms, on both our channels. So if that works out, we'll continue to do it. But this is my channel, so I plan to have, different guests on. I got some really cool people coming on. I got some plastic surgeons that want to come on, some people to talk about like taking care of your hair and skin, all that kind of stuff, and bodybuilding and gear. I've got this doctor coming on, Dr. Johnson. He's like a genetic doctor. He puts out some really amazing content out there on TikTok, and his following has grown dramatically. He's at like 500,000. He's only been on there like I think about a year or maybe a little more. So we've been talking back and forth, and I invited him on. He said, yeah, sure. So we'll have him on eventually. It's hard just getting people, my schedule and someone else's schedule linked up together. So we're going to have, I'm going to have some good guests on, and all walks of life, not just about fitness. I'm going to have other people on. I'm going to have a life coach on. I'm going to have all sorts of stuff. So that's what we have to look forward to. And if anybody has, a good story, or, you're always able to reach out to me. And I'm not just going to have people that's well known on. I'm all down for having people that's not, well known. I mean, that doesn't have a following and all that. Like, that's fine. So, yep. Yeah, I think he's able to talk more. So if that works out, like I said, he's got a lot of experience from past bodybuilding stuff. So if it works out, and we'll keep playing to it. I jumped on today just because getting sick from my shoots last week, my body's pretty beat down, taken off from the gym today. So I hopped on because I remembered this Thursday is July 4th. So it's going to be hard to do a podcast. And I don't think that many people are going to be on watching podcasts live. So we probably going to skip this week. It's July 4th. So yeah, there's a lot of throwback stories, man. There's so many. My friends remind me of stories all the time I forget about, and I have to remember, like, oh yeah. So I'll have some of my best friends on too that's known me like my whole life, that we can talk about funny stories back in the day. Like I was a loose cannon when we were younger. I mean, I was wild. I'm talking about wild. And so I'll have some of my friends on here probably to tell some crazy stories and all that. So, we'll just roll along with it. I've been meaning for years to start getting more serious with YouTube and all that. I do a lot of content on TikTok. I put a lot of content on there, but you have to be very careful what you say on there. Videos get taken down all the time. And so you put a lot of work into something. Like I've had a couple friends on there, their profile just get erased. So gotta be careful. So I don't know if it means anything, but you got a subscriber because you replied to everyone here. You're a good guy, or as Greg said. I appreciate that. And right now is a cool time because since I'm just starting live, I'm able to. I know we'll get to a point where it's going to be hard and I'll have to just pick random questions. But right now I can answer a lot of questions because I just got started. Once things starts building up, it's going to be harder and harder to do that. And so I'll have to just pick, random questions. So, I'm doing my own thing, you know what I mean, on here. So it's just me. So I'll collab with other people. And like I said, if it works out doing the podcast with Larry, when we plan to do it, it works out. If it eventually doesn't. But I think it can be good. And then, like I said, I've got a lot of other guests I need to bring on. I just need to schedule times to have them on. And then, like I was talking to Chris Cormier the other day, and I was wanting to get him on eventually. He does a lot of other podcasts, and so we might have him. I'm not one of these guys that's just going to only have bodybuilders. Like I see another podcast out there, like he only has top pro bodybuilders on. And I'm going to be honest, it gets a little boring. It gets a little boring, okay? So I'm going to mix it up with bodybuilding stuff and a wide variety of stuff. I'll have any walks of life topics on. Like I said, I've got a life coach that's supposed to come on. I've got a genetics doctor that's supposed to come on. I've got a plastic surgeon that's supposed to come on. I've got some good friends, best friends that are supposed to come on. So, just gotta, my schedule's so busy right now. My second nutrition company, my first nutrition company is a DB Army Nutrition. Second one is AMG Labs. We've got 2 products out. We were supposed to have all our products out already. I love this pump. It's amazing. Wicked pumps, and then we're coming out with another pump syrup that's similar. It's a lot of exciting stuff. So really busy with that, really busy with the kids, really busy with life. But I'm going to be keeping up with this and coming up in here for y'all. Okay, y'all, it's been a while on here. I'm getting hungry. We're at 1 hour and 30. Thank y'all for joining. I'm going to answer a couple more questions, then I'm going to get rolling. It's not worth talking, bro. If people want to get drunk, they can get drunk. That's their business. I'm not like other people. I'm not here to make fun of people. I'm not here to bash people. That's not something I do. Like if I said, if I critique somebody, it's like an honest critique, whether it's like a bad coach, like harming people, or whether it's a competitor, something like that. It's, I mean, I was a judge for 7 years, so I'm going to give it to you straight. I'm not here to, I really don't dislike anybody in the industry. Nobody matters that much to me where I'm going to like, oh my gosh, I don't like them. I'm more laid back than that. So that's where I feel. You can watch it. That's why we do it live. And then it's stored on here, brother. So it is what it is. All right, guys. Thank you for joining. Thursday is 4th of July. We're supposed to have our schedule with Larry and myself. I don't think we're probably going to do it. It's 4th of July. I'm going to be busy with my family. People are busy, so I doubt we do it this Thursday. And I think the following Thursday, I'm going to be out of town. Let's see. This Thursday, the following Thursday, I'm going out of town. So I might try to get it in that next week, but my schedule's busy. So we'll see, guys. Thanks for joining. I really appreciate it, everybody. Please subscribe, hit the notifications, check out my website. All my coaching information on there, supplementation on there. Got digital downloads. I rarely talk about my book. People's like, you talk about it. It's a book, but it's a short book. It's called Geared Up. Has all my cycles in here I ever did. Then it has a couple like crazy stories of the industry, how, there was a lot of just like wild stuff in the industry. Okay. One more question. Let's see. Is it good to see a good place from after hearing your story? Your OB addiction, good to see there. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's crazy because growing up, I was very anti-drug. And once I had all those surgeries and the doctors put me on all this pain medicine, even though it was all prescription, and I literally had a lot of surgeries before and pain clinics. I had so much pills like just stocked up. I mean, thousands of cotton, oxycodone, Dilaudid. And when I went through those 3 surgeries in that time period, and I stayed on pain medicine like for 2 months when I tried to come off, and I was in the worst withdrawals. That's what happens. Simple. A lot happens all the time. Someone breaks their leg, an athlete, they get on pain pills. Next thing you know, they can't get off because the withdrawals are so brutal. So there's always light at the end of the tunnel. That's why I have a passion for helping people as much as I can with that. The scummy people out there are the people that call we'll say like you're a druggie or addict, or like that's scum. If anybody's been through addiction these days usually has affected that person, a family member, or a close one. So those people that say, oh, he's what I'm talking about, the people that try to put someone down because they're honest about something in their life to try to help others. Those are awful people, right? So it is what it is. Okay. I get it. All right, guys. Peace out. Have an amazing day. I'm going to stay home and rest because I'm getting sick, on the verge where you're just like beat down your throat. I'm trying to beat it because I've got to go out of town, I believe, in a week and a half. And yeah. All right, guys, make sure you follow me on my IG, my TikTok. I put content on there all the time too. TikTok, I put a lot on there. who knows the future of it, but I'm going to continue to put on there. I'll put a lot of short clips, so go check that out. It has a lot of information on there, a lot of gym tips I put on there. And then I try to put them on the shorts here too, the gym tips. Sorry, guys. Have an amazing day. Thank y'all.